championship case number 1 of 3, the Truck Series Championship. Tomorrow we'll do Xfinity, Friday we will do Cup. The NASCAR Truck Series Championship, all 3 championships, of course, held at Phoenix Raceway, but the Truck Series Championship will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1. Hopefully we don't get a repeat of last year with the intentional wrecking and the absurd moves and the stupidity, I guess we shall put it. But let's look ahead to this year. This year in the NASCAR Truck Series and their Championship 4. So who are those 4 drivers? Well, we have the regular season champion, Christian Eckes. We have the guy with the most wins on the season, Corey Heim. We have Majeski, and we have Grant Enfinger. Enfinger and Majeski have 2 wins apiece on this season. And then when we look at Heim, he has 6. Eckes has 4, but once again, as I said, he was the regular season champion. When we look at their numbers this year, Eckes has the most top 5s. He has the most top 10s. Heim comes second in both of those categories. And then third is Majeski. Fourth is Enfinger. When we go to the laps led category, it's essentially the same order. It's Eckes, Heim, Majeski, Enfinger. When we go to the stage wins, basically the same order. Eckes, Heim, Majeski, Enfinger. Seems to be a pattern this year. But yes, Enfinger and Majeski have both won a couple of races. They've had solid seasons. We've seen Majeski excel at the short tracks. We saw Grant Enfinger get hot in the round of 8, win at Talladega and Homestead. But the story of 2024 in the Truck Series, it's been Christian Eckes versus Corey Heim. These two have dominated this season. If you just, once again, looking at the numbers alone, the amount of stage wins both of them have as individuals is either equal to or more than what Majeski and Enfinger have combined. Same story for the top 10s compared to the top 5s for Heim and Eckes. It's crazy what these two have done this year. It's impressive. It's extremely impressive. Eckes is getting promoted to the Xfinity Series next year. Heim, as of now, he's still going to be in the Truck Series, but he's going to be a top prospect, or he is a top prospect, and he's going to get elevated one day. There's a reason these two have been exchanging blows, in a sense, in terms of alternating wins this season, dominating this season. But what about their Phoenix numbers? That's a little bit of a different story. When we first look at Corey Heim, and there's a very small number because he's only raced there twice in the Truck Series. Of course, last year, Corey Heim led a lot of laps in this race, led 47 laps in this race, won Stage 2, finished second in Stage 1, but you look at the end result, 18th? How could that be? Well, him and Carson Hocevar got into it. Hocevar spun him out late in this race. It wasn't intentional, but it was a pretty bad move on Hocevar's part. And Corey Heim made it his mission to make sure that Hocevar didn't win the championship. It screwed both of their days, and Hocevar ends up not winning the championship. Heim ends up not finishing the championship, and he, finishes 18th. And Heim was arguably, or he was, the best driver last year. Outside of that, though, when he was at Kyle Busch Motorsports in 2022, started 3rd, finished 7th. Scored stage points, led 5 laps. Once again, there's not a big sample size on Corey Heim's Phoenix numbers. But when we go to the other drivers, we have a little bit more. Christian Eckes, it expands to 5 races. He's only finished outside the top 10 once. He finished 30th back in 2022. He led 36 laps in this race last season, finished top 10 in both of the stages, started 8th, and he ended up winning this race. That's a big note here. He won this race last year. So Christian Eckes has a win at Phoenix. He's the most recent winner at Phoenix in the Truck Series. That's a pretty big important stat there. That's going to have to be circled if you're circling things. And then we go to Majeski. Once again, Majeski's a great short track racer. We've seen him win on short tracks this season. He leads a ton of laps at the short tracks. And Phoenix, while in length it may not technically be a short track, it's kind of in that weird middle zone. It kind of races similar to a short track with the heavy braking and whatnot. However, Majeski's numbers are not exactly great. They're not horrific, but they're not great. 2022 and 2019 are his two other Truck Series starts, and it's a 11th and a 20th, so nothing really exciting there. But last year, he finished 14th, which is all right. That's definitely not going to win you a championship this weekend. But when you look at the other numbers from the race, first in stage 1, third in stage 2, he led 48 laps in this race last year. So he didn't win, didn't even get a top 5, not even a top 10. But when you look at the speed throughout the day, they scored stage points. They ran up front. They led laps. It's just they did not have the finish that they would have wanted. But this weekend, when it comes down to it, obviously, they need that finish. Then we go to Grant Enfinger. Grant Enfinger is the veteran of this group. He has 7 starts at Phoenix in his Truck Series career. It is his, I think it's his 3rd or 4th Championship 4 appearance. I think Heim is the only one that's made multiple Championship 4s in the Truck Series. Maybe Majeski has, but Enfinger, he's got a lot of experience with a lot of different teams, GMS Racing, CR7 Motorsports, Thor Sport, and then this year. But he has 4 top 10s in his 7 starts, including back-to-back 6th place finishes. He's extremely consistent, running in the top 10, scoring stage points in almost every stage he's been at here. He just hasn't quite broken into that winning category. He's got a couple of top 5s, but his last top 5 here was in 2019. He's only led 12 laps in his career at Phoenix, and remember, that's over 7 races. So his Phoenix numbers are not exactly, I hate to say the word encouraging, but encouraging, I guess. So when we look at these stats, when we look at the season stats, obviously, it heavily leans towards Eckes and Heim. When we look at the Phoenix stats, I think that win is a big help to Eckes. But then outside of that, it's kind of toss-up in a sense. And I think you kind of have to fall back if I'm looking at it. When I'm making my prediction here, we're getting into it right now, I guess. I kind of got to lean back on this season, how this season's gone. I think Majeski could very well be the wild card if he races like this is a short track, if this race ends up being like a short track race. But Eckes has been just as good as Majeski on the short tracks this year. So it's not a guarantee for Majeski, but it could be a very competitive battle between those two. But then you look at Corey Heim. He's won at a lot of different types of tracks this year. He might not be exactly even with Eckes and Majeski at the short tracks, but he's a good enough driver. He could go win any week. He really could in the Truck Series. And Enfinger's a wild card in his own way because, yeah, they hadn't had a win until 3 weeks ago, but he's a veteran of the sport. He's been here before. You could almost argue that he's due for a championship. So it's a tough pick, but at the end of the day, I'm going to lean towards the regular season. I'm going to lean towards the rest of the season. I don't think Enfinger, I don't think he can win it. I mean, don't get me wrong, in this format there's a chance, but I just don't think he has the speed of those other 3. Majeski, he's the wild card because if it's truly racing like a short track, then he's going to be a factor. But when it comes down to, in my opinion, I really think it's going to be a reflection of the season. I really think it's going to come down to Corey Heim and Christian Eckes battling it out for the championship. And these two have been great all season. Eckes has a win here. Eckes has been better on the short tracks, yes, but Corey Heim's been killing it at the intermediates. So we have this weird hybrid of a track in a sense, and it's a tough pick, obviously. And in this format, you could be right, you could be wrong. It's quite easy to be either one. But my first championship pick of the weekend, he was my preseason pick. If you know me, you know I love a good redemption story. And while this driver made some mistakes of his own in this race last year, he originally had the opportunity taken away from him. But this year, he takes it back. Corey Heim is my pick to be the 2024 NASCAR Truck Series champion. Once again, I think it's going to be a great battle, whoever's up front, whoever is involved in it. But I think it's ultimately going to come down to what we've seen all season. It's going to come down to Eckes and Heim. Those two have been the class of the field. Majeski has been another animal at the short tracks. He's been killing it. And Enfinger's had a solid season as well. So let me know what your picks are in the comments. Who's going to win the Truck Series Championship this year? Should be a fun race as long as we don't get as silly as we did last year. Tomorrow I'm making my Xfinity Series predictions, and then Friday I will make my Cup Series predictions. So these should be fun, I hope. I've never gone 3 for 3 in a weekend yet in championship picks. I think I've gone 2 for 3 one year, but that's about it.